Hi, it's Ileana. So today we're gonna go over some interesting news and informational updates. CIA agent reveals that there is a test that can show alien DNA in humans. Recently, the channel Vetted reviewed a video where a guest on the Danny Jones show said to them that a CIA agent had revealed that there is a test that checks for alien DNA in humans. Patrick, the reviewer of the video on Vetted, was asking, well, what is this DNA test and how does it work? I've interviewed various experiencers, contactees, and people who have claimed to have been in the secret space programs as assets and agents. And I have a witness who had shared their info with me about working in an SSP group, which describes these types of DNA testing to look for alien DNA. So here's the description of what the witness goes on to say, and this is as follows. I know that I am half Pleiadian, Andromedan, Syrian, L-race, and a bit Anunnaki. Figured that out a long time ago without a DNA test, but it would be interesting to know the various NHI non-human intelligences, genomes that exist in humans. I had walked around with a mini genetic scanner in Planetary Corp on the Mars basis that could scan any human and detect if they had ET DNA. And every day that I would go into work in the cybernetics lab, I had to stand on a security platform that would scan my whole body to make sure I had the exact ET DNA to check who I am, so I am not some alien shape-shifting imposter. God forbid I gained a little extra vampire or werewolf attributes from an overnight of interspecies carousing. Well, the platform would know about it, and then there would be a price to pay for it. There were strict rules of no interspecies contamination. No interspecies contamination while working for Planetary Corp. And this was on several Mars bases where this individual had worked for several years, according to their claims. And they go on to say this: it will be interesting to see when some humans discover that they have been NHI, all along and are already ET to some degree in their genetics, especially those psionics in the Black Operations group. The reason they are psionic is because they are not fully human but other. And what they mean by other is other species of other beings. Simple as that. NHI souls, so they go on to say NHI souls born in human bodies, they're born in human bodies. NHI souls are born in human bodies and they possibly are not aware of it. So they might not know of their full genetics other than human with special abilities. They might not know that they're NHI extraterrestrials. That's the same interchangeable word for what that means. Non-human intelligence or extraterrestrial alien. It's the same words. Alien is not really preferred to be used, but it's used interchangeably in the ufology scene. And then this witness goes on to share some other interesting information. In terms of vampire history, there is some information about that. Vampire soldiers were being tested by Soviet scientists in Ukraine before World War II. Douglas Dietrich wrote a book about it. Some of the facts he did get quite right, and some of it was wrong or way over-exaggerated. The fact he did get right was that secret experiments were done on vampires in Ukraine to test out the vampire strength, thought, consciousness, abilities, etc. Vampires look just like humans, except with some minor traits. They might be taller, they might be leaner in muscle mass, and their eye color could be different. There are various underground tunnels leading from Ukraine to Rostov where there is a biological lab in dumb space that the reptilians were given access to for doing experimentation on children in the 1980s. So it's within the realm of possibility that both vampires and werewolves can and do exist walking in secret among humans, along with witches and other beings that look humanoid, so can blend in with the human population, not being discovered for who they really are. And so after this information was shared with me, the witness and the other stuff, I got curious and I wanted to do some research about Douglas Dietrich's book about this vampire history and stuff. So I did a bit of research and I found a synopsis of it. So here's a summary synopsis of Douglas Dietrich's book called Vamphyrology, Vamphyrology, the vampire research paper. According to the witness, this book has pertinent facts that line up with a degree of accuracy for what happened in the vampire experimentation. So we are going to look at that information from the book. I mean, what this witness said about being checked to make sure that they were who they were and that their ET-DNA was checked every day on that security platform to make sure they were human and their other parts of ET-DNA and that they weren't vampire or werewolf or cybernetic, cyborg or something else or a shape-shifting extraterrestrial. What they were saying about that is part of human history, that there were vampires and still are vampires, werewolves, and other beings. Douglas Dietrich just happens to talk about the vampire stuff. So it's pretty interesting. So we're going to look at that. Vamphyrology, the vampire research paper. The subject is the existence and study of a subspecies of human-like vampires by an obscure Russian physician and professor who lectured on the subject from 1969 to 1972 at the University of Kiev. Dietrich claimed the lectures were of a highly classified subject matter involving the medical interment of a human subspecies at a remote Arctic facility in Novaya Zemlya prior to and after 1969-1972. Patient 0, a Homo sapien primate whose identity was never disclosed, was incarcerated at the Leningrad Psychiatric Institute in September 1940 under the observation of Dr. Andromeda. The patient claimed to be at least 70 years old but appeared to be in his early 20s. The patient was later determined fit for military service during World War II, despite having been discovered feeding off schizophrenic male patients in their sleep. Dr. Andromeda had discovered the patient was high and experiencing altered states of consciousness after ingesting other patients' blood. Patient 0 later assaulted a female military nurse on the Eastern Front after being forcefully conscripted into the Soviet Army Special Services. But further references to Patient 0 do not appear in the book after. The story suddenly turns to the use of similar vampires by the Russians against the Germans in Berlin during World War II. Unnatural units attacked and killed innocent civilians and German soldiers alike, as Russian political officers using dogs searched for and located victims for the vampires. What? German soldiers alike as Russian political officers using dogs searched for and located victims for the vampires. Whoa, this is trippy. Unnatural units attacked and killed innocent civilians and German soldiers. Wow. Okay, this is something. The vampires were later executed by the Soviets using machine guns. Later, Kirlian cameras were used to track down, apprehend, and kill the species in Russia after the war. So Kirlian cameras they can photograph human auras, the color of your aura and your soul frequency, in modern day mechanics of what Kirlian cameras can do, just for reference. Kirlian cameras are still used today. You put your hand on a little scanner device, it measures your energy frequency of your body and your soul, and it gives the color of your aura, or colors, because it could be more than one layer of color. So a lot of psychics use that technology. Even alternative medical practitioners in holistic fields use Kirlian cameras to sort of measure your health of your aura and your body. But this whole vampire experimentation started in Ukraine. That's where the origins of that began, with a professor and a scientist, according to Douglas Dietrich. But according to his questionable source, the Soviets later decided to use a nuclear weapons test to kill the inhabitants of Novaya Zemlya using the Tsar Bomba on October 30th, 1961. The covert special research and education facility was then created on Novaya Zemlya near Ruskaya Gavin in 1966. The remote Arctic facility housed a concentration of vampire primates in harsh weather with conditions of darkness for 6 months of the year. Despite this, many of the vampires were able to escape using floes of ice broken up by Soviet ships. Russian Spetsnaz then guarded the colony armed with AKs using hollow-point silver slugs filled with crushed garlic. Now, crushed garlic can't really kill vampires. It's silver bullets or decapitation of the head that kills vampires, werewolves. Garlic only will irritate vampires and stop them temporarily. It will not kill them. Dietrich claims that the vampires then escaped or avenged themselves by killing the soldiers who they considered an inferior species and referred to as white Enners, accusing them of racism and anti-vampiricism. That's sick. The vampires were later able to secret themselves within the Russian population and immigrated to the United States as displaced persons. Operating as an unofficial fifth column, they later killed 14,400 Americans per year until synthetic blood was developed and vampires don't need to drink human blood anymore. Don't need to drink straight from the source or kill anybody. There's synthetic blood has been developed in biological secret underground lab facilities under places in Europe. So this information is by Ileana K.A. She's collated this info together for this topic. Anonymous witness guest, vetted Patrick, and the source of the book of the synopsis, Douglas Dietrich. His book is interesting. It covers a lot of source material about vampires, experimentation in Ukraine done before World War II with military and scientific stuff. That's accurate. Some of the attributes of the vampires in the book, talking about female vampires, not so much, but it's good material to study and understand that genetic experimentation was done, human experimentation was done, experimentation on other type of living beings and species living on Earth also was done. So it's not a new concept, and it still goes on as extraterrestrials are being captured by the Black Operations Group for study, experimentation, dissection, and other horrible things, and then their bodies being incinerated. That's fact of what happens now in this reality. So it hasn't really stopped, just the when, the how, and the where has changed, really. That's about it. So this is the summarization of this news update and episode. Thank you so much.